Hey guys, tonight we are traveling back to a time and place of almost absurd elegance and quiet poetic drama, the Imperial Court of Heian-era Japan, around the 10th or 11th century. This is the world that gave us the tale of Genji, a world where your social standing could be ruined by choosing the wrong color of paper for a poem. It's a place of immense beauty, crushing social pressure, and a level of aesthetic refinement that makes modern life feel, well, a little clumsy. And honestly, you probably wouldn't survive this. The social anxiety alone would be a full-time job. And there's a distinct lack of wi-fi. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. It's a small thing, but it helps these quiet stories find other people who might need them. And in the comments, I'd love to know where you're listening from and what time it is there. It's always fascinating to see where these sleepy histories are drifting off to. Now. Dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You aren't woken by a sound, precisely. It's more of a change in the quality of the silence. A soft, rhythmic sweeping from somewhere far away. A gentle she that tells you the palace is stirring. You lie still, warm beneath a heavy silk futon, your head resting on a block of wood that passes for a pillow. It's not as uncomfortable as it sounds. A small, soft cushion is tied to its top, but it exists mainly to protect the elaborate hairstyles that are the currency of the court. Not that yours is elaborate yet. You're new. The air in your small, partitioned space smells of clean, cool cypress wood and the faint, sweet ghost of yesterday's incense. You've been here for 3 weeks, sent by your provincial governor father to make connections, to learn, to exist beautifully. It's a strange and demanding job description. You open your eyes, but there isn't much to see. The world is a soft, gray glow. Light filters through the paper of the Genji screens that form the walls of your temporary room. It's a light as thin and delicate as a moth's wing, turning the small space into a luminous, hazy box. You are in a vast, sprawling wooden world. The Imperial Palace, the dairy, is not one building, but a city within a city. A complex of halls and corridors connected by covered walkways, all raised several feet off the ground on thick wooden posts. This is a practical defense against the region's humidity and, less effectively, against bugs. Everything is wood, the floors, the walls, the ceilings, and it is all polished to a soft, dark gleam that reflects the pale morning light like the surface of a still pond. You've learned that the most important people reside deeper within the palace's nested chambers, like the prize at the center of a labyrinth. You are currently in one of the outer buildings, a long hall designated for ladies-in-waiting of your middling rank. Your personal space is carved out of this hall by a few standing screens, or kitchu, draped in silk. It offers the illusion of privacy, but not the reality. You hear a soft, bird-like chirping sound from the corridor just beyond your screen. It's not a bird, it's the floor. The long hallway floors, known as yugisubari, or nightingale floors, are a famous architectural quirk. They are deliberately designed so that the floorboards rub against metal clamps and nails when stepped on, producing a series of delicate, melodic squeaks. It's a beautifully poetic security system. No one can move through these halls without announcing their presence in song. It means you always know when someone is approaching. A small comfort in a place where secrets are a form of currency. You sit up. The silk of your simple sleeping robe, a kasode, rustling around you. The air is cool. It's early spring, and the morning carries a damp chill that seeps through the paper and wood. You run a hand over the woven tatami mat beneath your futon. Its texture is firm and smells faintly of dried grass. You are surrounded by subtle, natural things. The grain of the wood, the weave of the mat, the fibers in the paper screen. This is a world built from the forest and the field, reassembled with painstaking artistry. Asterisk, a quiet cough comes from the other side of a painted sliding door. A fusuma that connects to an adjoining space. That's Aya, a slightly more senior lady who has been assigned to guide you. She has been patient. Mostly, she finds your provincial habit of speaking directly to be a source of endless, weary amusement. Here, you don't say things. You imply them. You suggest them in a poem. You hint at them with the color of the sleeve you allow to drape from your ox-drawn carriage. It's exhausting. Asterisk, lying back down for a moment. You stare at the heavy wooden ceiling beams above. You wonder, as you often do in these quiet morning moments, if this life of prescribed beauty is a fortress or a cage. Historians still debate the agency of Heian Court women. Were they prisoners in a gilded world, their lives dictated by fathers and emperors? Or did their mastery of arts, literature, and social maneuvering grant them a unique and powerful sphere of influence, one that men could not enter? Perhaps, you think, it was both. A beautiful, silken cage, with a door that only opened if you knew the right poem to whisper to the lock. Asterisk, the chirping of the nightingale floor grows louder, more distinct. 2 sets of feet. They stop just outside your screen of state. A low, formal voice, barely a whisper, announces their presence. It's your attendance. Your day is about to begin, and it will begin not with a coffee or a glance at your phone, but with the slow, almost ritualistic process of being transformed into a work of art. The rustle of silk you hear is them kneeling, waiting for your acknowledgement. You take one last, deep breath of the quiet, cypress-scented air. It's time to get dressed. And in this world, that is no simple matter. Asterisk, you give a soft verbal assent, a quiet ma, that hangs in the air, and the 2 young attendants slide the screen aside with practiced grace. They are little more than girls, their movements silent and economical as they kneel just inside your partitioned space. They bow, their heads nearly touching the tatami, and you incline your own head in a shallow, regal nod you've been practicing. It feels fraudulent, but they don't seem to notice. One girl carries a folded stack of silks that seems impossibly vibrant in the gray morning light. The other carries a lacquer tray with a water basin and some cloths. They get to work without a word. Asterisk, you rise, and they help you out of your sleeping robe. The air is a shock of cold on your skin for a moment before the first layer is draped over your shoulders. This is a fresh kasode, the simple, short-sleeved underrobe of soft white silk. It's the foundation of everything. Next come the nagabukama, which are less like trousers and more like a long, pleated, crimson silk skirt, but divided. They are ridiculously long, designed to trail and pool around your feet, making walking a careful, shuffling art. The bright red is meant to peek out from beneath the subsequent layers, a flash of startling color against the dark, polished floor. Already, you feel a little less like a person and a little more like an arrangement. Asterisk, then the main event begins. This is the part that still bewilders you. The layering of the robes that will make up your jūnihitoe, the so-called 12-layer robe. It's a slightly misleading name, a bit of historical branding that stuck. Sometimes it was 8 layers, sometimes 10, sometimes, for a very special occasion, or for a very wealthy show-off, it could be as many as 20. Today, for you, it is 8, which is more than enough. Asterisk, the first of these is the hito, an unlined robe, today a pale, grassy green. It's light enough, but it's only the beginning. Now comes the stack of lined robes. The attendants work as a team, one holding the sleeves, the other settling the garment over your shoulders. Each robe is marginally smaller than the one beneath it, a clever trick of tailoring that allows the edges to show at the neckline and, most importantly, at the cuffs. This is where the artistry lives. The careful stacking creates a sliver of each color, a perfect, graduated rainbow on your sleeves. Asterisk, this is the Kasan no Iram, the palette of layered colors. It is the most important fashion statement you will make all day. Today's combination is called Willow, a classic for this time of year. After the grassy green hito, they add a layer of white, then another layer of white, then a pale green, then a slightly deeper green, then another white. Each time a robe settles onto your shoulders, you feel the weight increase. It's not crushing, not yet, but it's present. A constant, gentle pressure reminding you of your place, of the gravity of this world. The silk is so fine, it whispers as it moves. The combined weight is like being hugged by a very heavy, very expensive ghost. Asterisk, you must stand perfectly still, a living mannequin. The girl's hands are quick and precise. They adjust a sleeve here, smooth a collar there. A mistake in these color combinations would be a social catastrophe. Wearing an autumn palette in spring would be seen as laughably tasteless, a sign of a poor education and a clumsy soul. It would be the talk of the court for a week. The men would write sarcastic poems about it. The other women would offer you pitying glances from behind their fans, which is somehow much worse. Asterisk, historians still puzzle over the sheer impracticality of it all. How did women navigate their daily lives encased in up to 40 pounds of silk? Did they suffer from overheating in the summer? The second set of attendants has already prepared the tools for your morning toilette. Arranged on a low lacquer table, there's a bronze mirror, polished to a reflective sheen. But its surface is dark, a bit wavy, like looking at your reflection in a pool of motor oil. It's better than nothing, but it offers a hazy, moody version of you. Beside it sits a collection of porcelain pots, shells filled with pigments, and an assortment of brushes made from animal hair. It all looks very artistic, like a painter's setup. In a way, that's exactly what it is. Asterisk, you kneel before the table as one of the girls dips a soft cloth into a bowl of clean water and gently washes your face. It's a simple, refreshing start to a very complicated process. The goal of Heian-era makeup is not to enhance your natural features, but to completely replace them with a set of idealized, artificial ones. The first and most important step is the application of oshiroi, a thick, white powder. Asterisk, this isn't the light, translucent powder of today. It's a heavy, lead-based concoction, a historical fact that sends a small, modern shudder through you. For centuries, this cosmetic, which gave skin a flawless porcelain look, was also slowly poisoning its users. Ignorance was bliss, I suppose. The attendant mixes the powder with water to create a paste, then begins to apply it to your face, your neck, and your upper chest with a flat brush. The feeling is cool and slick. She works with incredible concentration, smoothing the paste until it forms a uniform, opaque white mask. She carefully avoids your original hairline, leaving a natural border of skin, a curious practice known as teng. Historians wonder if this was meant to show that the mask was in fact a mask and intentional artifice, not a deception. Asterisk, while she works, you stare at your ghostly reflection. Your features are softened, blurred under the white layer. You look less like a person and more like a canvas, waiting for the details to be painted in. Next, the eyebrows. Your own have been plucked into near non-existence. Now, the attendant takes a pot of black ink and a fine brush. She dips the brush and, with a steady hand, paints on a new pair of brows. But they don't go where your eyebrows used to be. Instead, she paints them about an inch higher up on your forehead, like two small, smudgy thumbprints. These cloud brows, or fujibitai, were considered incredibly elegant. From a distance, they were meant to look like distant, hazy clouds lingering near your hairline. Up close, you just look permanently surprised. Asterisk, the final, and perhaps strangest step, is the ohaguro, the practice of blackening your teeth. You take a small cup containing a foul-smelling iron-based liquid. It's made by soaking iron filings in vinegar and tea. A recipe that has all the chemical charm of a rusty bucket left out in the rain. The attendant hands you a small, fibrous twig to use as a brush. Taking a deep breath, you dip the twig and begin to paint your teeth. The taste is metallic and bitter, and you try not to swallow. This practice, which seems bizarre to modern eyes, was a mark of beauty and maturity for centuries in Japan. A quirky detail often overlooked is that the lacquer-like substance actually helped prevent tooth decay. So, while the lead powder was slowly killing you, the tooth blackening was saving you from a toothache. It's a historical wellness plan with very mixed results. Glistening, black teeth were considered beautiful, a striking contrast to the white face. A mouth full of white teeth was seen as animalistic, almost vulgar. When a woman smiled, her mouth was meant to become a dark, mysterious void. Once the bitter task is done, you rinse your mouth. The attendant daubs a tiny spot of red pigment, made from safflower, onto your lower lip. Not your whole lip, just a small, rosebud-like circle in the center. The mouth should be small and demure. A full, wide smile was considered unladylike. The ideal expression was a placid, neutral mask, with emotions hinted at only by the subtlest of gestures, a glance. The angle of a fan. You look into the dark mirror, one last time. The person staring back is a stranger, a pale moon-faced creature with thumbprint eyebrows, a tiny red mouth, and a dark, empty smile. You are now officially beautiful by Heian standards. You are ready to face the world, or at least, to sit elegantly behind a screen and be vaguely aware of it. The whole process has taken the better part of an hour, a slow, methodical erasure of your real face. You can feel the weight of the powder on your skin and the lingering taste of iron in your mouth. You are now a perfect, impersonal work of art. And it's not even 8 a.m. Now that you are a finished masterpiece, you can't just go wandering about. That would be unseemly. The life of a well-bred Heian lady is a stationary one. Your purpose is not to do, but to be. And you will be primarily behind a screen. Your personal attendants guide you from your small changing area into the main part of the long hall, where you take your designated spot. The heavy layers of your robes make walking a delicate, shuffling glide. You move slowly, your feet lost somewhere in the crimson folds of your trousers. The long silk mo trailing behind you like a painted river. It's less a walk and more a controlled slide. Your world for the next several hours is defined by the objects that surround you. Chief among them is your kitchu, your personal screen of state. It's a T-shaped wooden stand, about waist-high, from which drapes a long curtain of silk, often decorated with the same patterns as your robes. It's your portable privacy wall, your shield against the world. You settle onto a thick, square cushion called as abaton, arranging your 8 layers of silk around you in a perfect, colorful circle. It's like creating a personal, textile-based fortress. The sleeves are fanned out just so. A deliberate display of the layered colors. From behind your screen, you can observe the quiet activities of the hall. Other ladies-in-waiting are similarly ensconced, each in her own silken nest. The air is filled with the soft rustle of expensive fabric and the occasional floorboard squeak of someone moving down the corridor. This is life lived in glimpses. Your primary window to the world is a sudare, a hanging blind made of thin, lacquered strips of bamboo woven together with bright silk cords. It hangs in the open spaces between the wooden pillars of the hall, separating the interior from the covered veranda and the gardens beyond. You can see through it, but only imperfectly. The world outside is reduced to horizontal stripes of light, color, and movement. A guard in dark robes walks by, his form momentarily sliced into a dozen pieces by the bamboo strips. A flash of pink from an early blooming cherry tree in the garden becomes a series of disjointed, rosy rectangles. It forces you to see the world as an impressionistic painting, a collection of disconnected shapes that your mind has to piece together. This fractured view is a perfect metaphor for your knowledge of the palace. You hear gossip. You see figures passing in the corridor. You receive cryptic poems, but you rarely see the full picture. You are living in a state of perpetual, elegant mystery. Asterisk, a little-known fact about these blinds is that the view from the inside looking out is much clearer than the view from the outside looking in. During the day, the bright sunlight outside makes the dark interior nearly impossible to penetrate with the eye. You are a hidden observer. This was a crucial element of courtly flirtation. A gentleman might stand on the veranda, trying to catch a glimpse of the ladies within. He might see only a suggestive sliver of a colorful sleeve, deliberately placed near the edge of the blind. The lady inside, however, could see him quite clearly. It was a game of asymmetrical vision, giving women a quiet, observational power. Asterisk, you spend a part of the morning simply existing. You practice your calligraphy on a spare sheet of paper, your brush moving in slow, deliberate strokes. You adjust a fold in your sleeve. You listen to the sounds of the palace, the distant clang of a temple bell, the call of a water bird from the garden pond, the ever-present chirp-chirp of the nightingale floors. It's a life of profound and meditative stillness. Boredom, as a modern concept, doesn't seem to apply here. There is no expectation of constant stimulation. Instead, there is just time, an ocean of it. Asterisk, you pick up a fan, an indispensable tool for any court lady. It's not just for keeping cool. It's for hiding your face when you speak, for gesturing, for discreetly pointing something out, and most importantly, for concealing your emotions. A slight tremor of the hand, a faster flutter of the fan, these are the ways you shout in a world of whispers. Historians often debate the psychological effect of this mediated existence. Did living behind screens and fans create a culture of intense interiority, leading to the brilliant diaries and novels of the era? Or was it simply a form of social control, keeping women separate and subdued? Looking through the bamboo slats at the fragmented garden, you suspect it's both. It's a life that forces you inward, making your thoughts and feelings the most vibrant landscape you have access to. Asterisk, a soft cough from your mentor, Aya, brings you back. She is seated a few feet away, behind her own screen. She catches your eye and gives a subtle nod toward a corner of the room. It's time for your next lesson. It's not about politics or statecraft. It's about something far more important here. Poetry. Aya gestures for an attendant, who approaches your silken fortress, bearing a lacquer box with inlaid She kneels and opens it, revealing a collection of artistic implements that are, in this court, as vital as any sword or decree. Inside are sheets of exquisite, colored paper, a weighty black inkstone, and a solid stick of ink. This is not a hobby. This is a core competency. Your ability to compose a fitting poem on the perfect paper at a moment's notice is a measure of your intelligence, your sensitivity, and your very soul. Asterisk, the attendant places the ink, the suzuri, before you. It's a heavy, smooth piece of slate, carved with a flat surface and a small well at one end. She pours a few drops of clear, cool water from a small ceramic vessel into the well. Then she hands you the ink. It's a small, black rectangular block, surprisingly dense, made from a mixture of pine, soot, and animal glue, compressed and dried for years. This isn't just any ink, it is scented. As you handle it, you can smell the faint, complex aroma of musk and cloves that has been mixed into the soot. Even the tools for writing are an aesthetic experience. Asterisk, your task is to grind the ink. It's a slow, meditative process. You dip the end of the ink stick into the water in the well, and then begin to rub it in a gentle, circular motion on the flat surface of the stone. At first, the water just turns a pale gray, but you continue, applying steady, even pressure. She. The sound is a soft, rhythmic scratching, a quiet counterpoint to the sweeping you heard this morning. It's a sound of creation, of potential. You can't rush it. Grinding too fast, or with too much water, will result in a thin, watery ink that bleeds on the paper. Grinding too slowly, or with too little water, will create a thick, gummy ink that clogs the brush. Asterisk, you focus on the feeling of the stick moving against the stone. The gentle friction, the gradual transformation. The gray water thickens, darkening with each rotation. The scent of the ink becomes more pronounced, a dry, earthy perfume that fills the air around you. This process is a form of mindfulness. It forces you to slow down, to be present in the moment. It clears your mind for the creative act to come. In Heian, Japan, a person's character was often judged by the quality of their ink. A well-ground, lustrous black ink suggested a patient and refined personality. A poorly prepared ink suggested an impatient and clumsy mind. It's like being judged on your ability to make a good cup of coffee, but with far more serious social consequences. Asterisk, while you grind, you contemplate the paper. The box contains a rainbow of choices. Each sheet is handmade from mulberry bark, but they have been dyed in a stunning array of colors. There's a pale plum blossom pink, a deep indigo blue, a soft willow leaf green, and a vibrant saffron yellow. Some are plain, some are decorated with flecks of gold leaf, and others have subtle patterns pressed into them. A quirky but telling detail of the era is that specific papers were considered appropriate for specific topics or recipients. Sending a love poem on somber, dark gray paper would be a shocking and confusing misstep. Writing a cheerful note on paper dyed with a funereal color would be an unforgivable offense. Asterisk. Historians still discuss the intricate colored dictionaries of the time, codes that assigned specific meanings to hundreds of different cassette or layered color combinations, not just for robes, but for paper as well. Was there a universally accepted system, or did the rules fluctuate based on the whims of the Empress and her inner circle? It was likely a bit of both. A fluid language of color that you had to learn on the fly. Asterisk, you decide on a sheet of very pale, almost white, blue paper. It's the color of the sky on a crisp spring morning, just after the mist has burned away. It feels hopeful, calm. It's a safe choice, unlikely to cause offense. You lay it out beside you. The final destination for the ink you are now carefully preparing. Asterisk, after several minutes of grinding, the ink is ready. You test it with the tip of your finger. It's thick but not sticky, and the color is a deep, rich, absolute black. It feels alive. You lift the ink stick and carefully wipe the end before placing it back on its ceramic rest. You then select a brush. It has a thin bamboo handle and soft, pliable bristles made from weasel hair, tapered to a perfect point. You dip the tip of the brush into the pool of fresh ink, letting the bristles drink it in. Asterisk, you are now armed and ready. You have your canvas, the pale blue paper. You have your medium, the lustrous, fragrant ink. You have your tool, the fine-tipped brush. All you need now is a reason to write, an occasion, and in the Heian Court, you never have to wait long for an occasion to present itself. The world is a constant stream of poetic prompts, and you are about to receive your first major test. Asterisk, just as you finish admiring your perfectly ground ink, a subtle shift in the hall's atmosphere alerts you. The usual soft rustles and whispers die down. Even the nightingale floors seem to hold their breath. A high-ranking court lady, identifiable by the sheer number and brilliance of her layers, is gliding down the corridor, her expression serene and unreadable. She stops not at your screen, but at Aya's. They exchange a few words, so low you cannot hear them, and the lady hands Aya a small folded piece of paper. It is a deep, imperial purple. Asterisk A accepts it with a low bow. After the messenger has departed, she turns to you, her usual mask of weary amusement replaced by something more serious. She beckons you closer with a slight tilt of her head. You shuffle forward, your silken fortress rustling around you, until your screen is next to hers. Asterisk, from the Empress, she whispers, her voice barely disturbing the air. She holds up the purple paper. An imperial challenge. Asterisk, your stomach does a slow, queasy flip. This is not a casual test. The Empress Sadako is known for her brilliant mind and her love of literary games. She often sends out the first half of a poem, a famous verse from a classic anthology, to her ladies in. The challenge is to provide the second half, and not just any second half. It must be clever, contextually appropriate, and composed with elegant calligraphy. It is a test of knowledge, wit, and artistic skill, all at once. It's like being put on the spot in a board meeting with the CEO. If the CEO was a poetry nerd with absolute power, asterisk Aya unfolds the paper carefully. On it, written in a hand so beautiful, it looks like it was printed, is a single line of verse. God, asterisk. She reads it aloud in a soft murmur. Ada no ni. Asterisk, the words hang in the air, between you, on the fields of spring. Asterisk, it's the beginning of a well-known, but not obvious poem. Your mind races, sifting through the hundreds of verses you were forced to memorize as a child. Provincial governor's daughter or not, your father had insisted on a classical education. You remember your tutor, a cranky old man who smelled of mothballs and rice wine, rapping your knuckles when you mixed up your anthologies. You hated it then, but now, a wave of gratitude washes over you. Asterisk, on the fields of spring. You repeat softly, staring into the middle distance. The second half of the poem flickers at the edge of your memory. It's about young herbs, about picking them for a loved one. The full poem speaks of gathering fresh greens. A simple, pastoral image. But this is the Heian Court. Nothing is simple. The Empress is not asking for a recipe. She is testing your ability to understand nuance. Asterisk, you have a choice. You could simply write out the original, correct second half of the poem. That would be the safe, competent answer. It would show you know your classics. You would pass the test, but you would not be noticed. To be noticed, to impress, you need to do something more. You need to provide a response that is not just correct, but creative. One that acknowledges the original poem, but adds a personal, witty touch relevant to this exact moment. Asterisk, this is a well-documented aspect of Heian Court life. Poetic exchanges were rarely about just quoting the classics. They were about riffing on them, creating a dialogue with the past. A lesser-known quirk of these exchanges was the speed required. A long delay in your response was a sign of a slow mind. You had to be brilliant, and you had to be brilliant now. Asterisk, you look at the pale blue paper you chose earlier, the color of a spring morning sky. Perfect. You look at the rich, dark ink you just ground. Also perfect. The universe, it seems, has conspired to give you your shot. Asterisk, Aya-san, you whisper, your voice tight with nerves. Meh. Asterisk, Aya looks at you, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. She expected to have to guide you, perhaps even dictate a safe response. For you to take the initiative is bold. She studies your face for a long moment, then gives a single, sharp nod. She slides the blue paper in front of you. Asterisk, you take your brush, the one with the weasel hair tip, and dip it once more into the ink. You take a deep, silent breath to steady your hand. Your heart is hammering against your ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a silken cage. You are not just writing a line of poetry. You are writing your future. Your response will be circulated, judged, and remembered. Asterisk, instead of completing the original verse about picking herbs, you begin to paint new characters, your mind settling on a different image, one inspired by the very room you sit in. Your brush moves across the paper, leaving a trail of glossy black. You decide to connect the fields of spring, not to literal greens, but to the young ladies in waiting, like yourself, who are sprouting in the court. Asterisk you. The waiting stretches on, a taut, invisible string pulling at the corners of your composure. You try to return to your previous state of meditative stillness, but it's impossible. Your mind is a flurry of second-guessing. Was the poem too bold? Too familiar? Was your calligraphy slanted? Did you use a character that has a secondary, unfortunate meaning you'd forgotten? Every few minutes, your eyes dart towards the corridor, expecting a messenger, though whether they bring praise or censure, you cannot guess. Aya, sensing your agitation, makes a quiet suggestion. A walk in the gardens might be calming. It's not really a question. It's a command disguised as a wellness tip. A change of scenery is required before you unravel completely. She gives a signal, and your attendants appear as if summoned from the very air. Another lady in waiting, a quiet girl named Chio, is instructed to join you. You are not allowed to wander alone. A supervised two-person stroll is the most freedom you can expect. Getting up is, as always, a production. The attendants help you to your feet, arranging your trailing mo and ensuring your 8 layers hang correctly. You feel like a ship being prepared for launch. You and Chio shuffle towards the edge of the hall, your combined robes rustling like a forest floor in autumn. You step from the polished darkness of the interior onto the covered veranda that borders the building. The sudden brightness makes you squint. The world outside the hall is alive with color and light, a stark contrast to the dim, refined interior. The veranda runs alongside a meticulously landscaped garden, which is less a wild space and more an exercise in controlled, symbolic nature. Every element has been placed with artistic intent. There is no such thing as a random rock or a casual tree. You begin your slow, shuffling walk along the wooden walkway. Chio walks beside you, equally encumbered by her own magnificent silks. You both hold your fans artfully, obscuring the lower half of your faces. Conversation is sparse, limited to soft, appreciative murmurs about the scenery. The wisteria is beginning to bloom, Chio says, her voice a breath of air, and it is. A wooden trellis nearby is draped with long, nascent clusters of wisteria blossoms, still tightly furled, but showing a hint of the pale lavender they will soon become. In Heian poetry, wisteria is often associated with the imperial family and with clinging, enduring love. Its presence here is no accident. You pass a small, artificially created stream that gurgles and winds its way through the garden. The sound of the water is a gentle, constant whisper. A simple, arched wooden bridge, painted a vibrant vermilion, crosses the stream. The bridge is so steeply curved, it looks almost impossible to walk over in these robes. It is a bridge for the eyes, not for the feet. Its purpose is to be a beautiful red slash in a landscape of greens and browns. A lesser-known fact about these gardens is the incredible effort that went into their soundscape. Gardeners were known to strategically place an angled bamboo pipes, called shishiodoshi, or deer scarers, not to scare deer, but to fill with water, and then tip over, striking a rock with a satisfying, hollow clack. The sound was meant to punctuate the silence and remind you to be present. Historians often emphasize that these gardens were meant to be viewed from a seated position inside, as a living painting, but to walk through them is to experience them differently. You notice the damp, earthy smell rising from the moss that carpets the ground beneath the trees. You see the flash of a bright orange carp, a living jewel, as it darts through the dark water of the central pond. You feel the gentle breeze that carries the scent of damp soil and the promise of flowers. Your path takes you towards the large pond, the heart of the garden. Its surface is a perfect mirror, reflecting the sky and the carefully sculpted pine trees at its edge. A small, unpainted wooden boat is tethered to a post at the water's edge, not for rowing, but for being poled around the pond on warm evenings while someone played a flute. It is an accessory to a mood. In the center of the pond is a small island, connected to the shore by another, more functional bridge. On the island sits a single, beautifully shaped rock, chosen for its resemblance to a mythical mountain. This is the essence of the Heian Garden, a miniature, idealized version of the wider world. You are not seeing a real mountain or a real ocean, but the idea of them, condensed and perfected. It's a landscape of symbols, designed to evoke poetic thoughts. The craggy rock is loneliness. The stream is the passage of time. The brief life of the cherry blossom is the beautiful sadness of mortality. It's a heavy burden for a garden to bear, but this one seems to manage it with effortless grace. You and Chiyo pause by the water's edge, ostensibly to admire the view. Really, you're just catching your breath. The weight of the silk is beginning to feel less like a hug and more like a gentle, persistent form of gravity. You watch a dragonfly, its wings like shattered glass, hover over the water. For a moment, you feel a pang of envy for its lightness, its freedom of movement. Then you see it, on the far side of the pond, partially obscured by the drooping branches of a willow tree. Two figures are standing. They are men, courtiers, identifiable by their tall, black lacquered hats and dark robes. They are too far away to recognize. They seem to be looking in your general direction. Or are they? It's impossible to tell. They might be composing a poem about the pond. They might be discussing politics. They might be admiring your and Chiyo's robes, your carefully orchestrated color palettes, or they might not have noticed you at all. This is the constant, low-level paranoia of court life. You are always on display, and you are always guessing at the motives of others. You feel a sudden, urgent need to be back behind your screen, back in the striped, fragmented safety of the hall. The open air feels too exposed. Chiyo must feel it too, because she gives a slight, almost invisible shiver and turns to go back. Your calming walk is over, but as you turn, you see a figure hurrying along the veranda toward you. It's the Empress's messenger, and she is holding a response. The messenger reaches you and Chiyo just as you are about to step back into the dim hall. She bows low, her own layered robes, a cascade of peach and apricot silks. She offers you not a folded note, but a small lacquered tray. On it sits a single, perfect white gardenia blossom, and beside it, a slim, rolled scroll of the same imperial purple paper, tied with a golden thread. An audible gasp, as soft as a moth's flight, escapes Chiyo. This is no mere reply. This is a gift, a sign of favor. Your hands tremble slightly as you take the scroll. The gardenia fills the air with a heavy, sweet perfume. Its pristine white petals seem almost luminous against the dark tray. You untie the golden thread with fumbling fingers and unroll the scroll. The Empress has not written a poem. Instead, in her impossibly elegant script, she has written a single question. Will you join me for a game of Go this afternoon? It is an invitation and summons. A monumental step up from the anonymous ranks of new ladies. Aya, who has been observing from the doorway, glides forward. She takes in the scene, the flower, the scroll, your stunned expression, and a look of profound satisfaction settles on her face. Her risky investment in the country girl is about to pay off. You will, of course, accept, she states, then dispatches an attendant to carry your formal, grateful acceptance back to the Empress's private chambers. The rest of the morning passes in a nervous haze. You are served a light meal of cold rice and pickled vegetables, but you can barely swallow. Your mind is consumed with the impending game. After the midday meal, a period of quiet descends on the palace. It is a time for naps, for quiet contemplation, or, in your case, for a gentle battle of wits. You are escorted by Aya herself, not to the main audience hall, but deep into the nested, labyrinthian corridors of the imperial living quarters. The nightingale floors sing a more melodic, refined tune here. The air is thicker with the scent of old wood and expensive, rare incense. Finally, you arrive at a set of sliding screens, painted with a serene landscape of mountains and mist. You kneel as Aya announces you. A soft voice from within bids you enter. You slide the screen open, bow until your forehead nearly touches the polished floor, and shuffle into the room, keeping your eyes downcast. The Empress is seated on a raised dais. looking less like a ruler and more like an art object. Her jūnihitoe is a magnificent creation of deep purples and pale lilacs, the colors of dusk. She is, as always, partially hidden behind a standing screen of state. But you can see her face, a perfect white oval, her expression calm and intelligent. The only other person in the room is a single, elderly attendant who sits silently in a far corner, in the space between you and the Empress. A go-board rests on a low table. It is a beautiful object, a thick, square block of pale, fine-grained wood. Its surface a grid of 19 by 19 black lines. 2 covered wooden bowls, one for white stones and one for black, sit beside it. "You may rise," the Empress says. Her voice is like a small, clear bell. "I trust your walk in the garden was inspiring. You understand?" She is acknowledging your poem, the one about the young shoots in her garden. You feel a blush rise under your white powder. Your Majesty's garden is a source of endless inspiration. You manage to say, your voice a little shaky. She gestures to the cushion opposite her. "I enjoy a quiet game in the afternoon. It settles the mind. Do you play?" You take the dare. With a steady hand, you play the sequence of moves, your white stones methodically surrounding the small, isolated group of black ones. Click, click, click. It's a clean capture. You remove the 5 black stones from the board and place them in the lid of your bowl, the traditional place for captured pieces. The silence in the room deepens. You have just taken territory from the Empress. You resist the urge to immediately apologize, faint, or spontaneously combust. The Empress studies the board for a long moment, her head tilted. You expect a flicker of irritation, a subtle tightening of her lips. Instead, a slow, genuine smile spreads across her face, a rare and dazzling sight. The effect is so startling, it takes your breath away. "Clever," she says, the single word a balm on your frayed nerves. Very clever indeed. She has not been insulted. She has been entertained. The game continues, but the tension has shifted. It is no longer a test of your deference, but a genuine meeting of minds. You still know you must lose, of course, but now you must lose beautifully. After a well-fought battle, eventually, the game winds down. You make a series of intentionally inefficient moves, allowing her to solidify a much larger territory on the other side of the board. The final score is not even close, but the small victory you claimed earlier hangs in the air, a testament to your skill. "A most enjoyable game," the Empress declares, signaling its end. You provide a pleasant challenge. She gives you a small, dismissive nod, and you know you are excused. You bow so low your forehead once again grazes the floor, and you back out of the room like a reverse motion film, not daring to turn your back on her. Once the painted screens slide shut behind you, you let out a breath you didn't realize you'd been holding for an hour. Aya is waiting, and from her expression, she has already heard that the game went well. News travels in this palace through an invisible, instantaneous network. As you shuffle back toward your own quarters, you pass an open veranda overlooking a different, smaller garden, and there, you see a figure that makes you pause. It's another lady in waiting, but one you know by reputation only. She is seated alone, not behind a screen, but out on the veranda, her legs tucked beneath her as she stares intently at a group of court officials playing kickball kimari. On a nearby lawn, you know at once that it is Shōnagon. There is an unmistakable air of sharp, critical intelligence about her, while other ladies cultivate an aura of dreamy, poetic melancholy. Shōnagon radiates a restless, opinionated energy. She is a lady in waiting to your new acquaintance, the Empress Sadako, and is famous throughout the court for her brilliant, witty, and sometimes scathingly judgmental writing. She is not watching the game with placid enjoyment. Her eyes are narrowed, her head cocked, as if she's mentally dissecting the player's form, their choice of robes, the arc of the deerskin ball. She holds a small stack of notebooks and a brush, but she isn't writing, she's observing, gathering material. This is a crucial insight into her process. Her famous work, the pillow book, Makura no Ski, is not a diary of her own feelings, but a collection of observations, opinions, and, most famously, lists. You watch her for a moment, unseen. A quirky but well-documented detail about Shōnagon is her love for these lists. She wrote lists of hateful things like a dog that barks in the middle of the night, elegant things, a white coat worn over a violet waistcoat, and things that make one's heart beat faster. It was a completely new form of writing, a way of categorizing and judging the world with incisive, personal flair, while her contemporary, Murasaki Shikibu, was painstakingly crafting a grand, sprawling fictional narrative. Shōnagon was capturing the world in sharp, vivid snapshots. You can almost see the gears turning in her head. Is she composing a new list right now? Awkward ways to kick a ball, perhaps, or colors that clash horribly on a sunny afternoon. Historians still debate the true nature of the pillow book. Was it a private journal never meant for publication? Or was it a semi-public performance, a carefully crafted persona designed to entertain the Empress and her circle? Given Shōnagon's competitive and performative nature, the latter seems more likely. She was, in a sense, the court's first blogger, sharing her hot takes on everything from fashion to exorcisms. Suddenly, she seems to feel your gaze. She turns her head, and her sharp, intelligent eyes meet yours. You are caught staring. A flush of embarrassment, hot and swift, rushes to your face. You quickly lower your eyes and execute a hasty, clumsy bow, then hurry away, your heart thumping. You feel like a fan who has been caught staring at a celebrity as you retreat down the chirping corridor. You can't shake the feeling of that brief, intense eye contact. You have just had a brush with a living legend, a woman who was defining the very literature of your age with her sharp wit and her endless, wonderful lists. The encounter leaves you feeling a little starstruck and a little inadequate. How could your simple poems ever compare to her brilliant, cutting prose? You retreat to the familiar comfort of your own silken fortress, the memory of her confident, appraising stare lingering in your mind, the excitement of the day, the poetic duel, the game of Go. The brush with Shōnagon leaves you feeling drained and strangely hungry. The small lunch of rice and pickles feels like a distant memory. As evening approaches, the palace begins to shift its rhythm. Lanterns are lit, casting a warm, flickering, orange glow that makes the polished wood of the corridors gleam like dark honey. The air grows cooler, and the scent of evening dew from the gardens mingles with the ever-present aroma of incense. You soon learn that you are to be included in a small, informal banquet hosted by one of the high-ranking ministers. Your successful encounter with the Empress has clearly elevated your status. Aya informs you of this with a nod of approval, and your attendants begin the process of refreshing you, which involves checking that all 8 of your layers are still perfectly aligned and applying a fresh dusting of powder to your nose. You are escorted to one of the larger halls in a different part of the palace complex. This room is buzzing with a low hum of activity. About 20 or so courtiers, both men and women, are present. The men are seated on one side of the room, the women on the other, separated by a row of magnificent standing screens. It's a dinner party where you can't quite see half the guests, a classic Heian arrangement. The men can glimpse the women's colorful sleeves and hear their soft laughter, but their faces remain hidden behind screens and fans. Instead of a large central table, the food is served on individual lacquer trays, set on short legs and placed before each guest. The meal arrives in a slow, stately procession, carried by servers, who move with silent, choreographed grace. What is placed before you is not a heaping plate of food, but a work of art. The emphasis of Heian cuisine was overwhelmingly on visual presentation. The taste, by all accounts, was a secondary concern. Your tray holds a dozen small, delicate dishes. There is a small mound of steamed white rice, a clear soup with a single, floating mushroom, and an assortment of tiny plates, each holding a morsel of food arranged with surgical precision. There's a sliver of grilled fish, a few translucent slices of pickled lotus root arranged to look like a flower, and a small pile of shiny salted plums, one of the most common ingredients. A historical fact that highlights the limitations of their pantry was seaweed, served in countless ways, jellied, toasted, or in soups. The colors are a study in contrasts, the pale pink of pickled ginger against a dark green leaf, the bright orange of a steamed carrot carved into the shape of a maple leaf. The food is arranged according to strict aesthetic principles, balancing colors, shapes, and textures. It looks too beautiful to eat, which is just as well, because the flavors are subtle. To a modern palate, it would be bland. Salt was used, but sparingly. Spices like pepper and cloves existed, but were incredibly rare, more likely to be found in an incense blend than in a stew. The primary flavorings were vinegar, salt, and hishio, a fermented soybean paste that was a precursor to modern soy sauce. The focus was on the natural, unadorned taste of the ingredients themselves. You take a small bite of the grilled fish. It tastes like fish. No lemon, no herbs, just the clean, slightly oily flavor of the fish itself. A quirky detail of these banquets was the near-total absence of what we would consider hot food, lacking a large central kitchen and an army of servers to run things quickly. Most dishes were prepared well in advance and served at room temperature or cold. The clear soup before you is lukewarm at best. It's a meal of quiet, cool, and exquisitely arranged sensations. You eat slowly, lifting small portions to your mouth with a pair of delicate bamboo chopsticks. Everyone eats with a quiet, refined grace. There is no loud chewing, no clattering of dishes. You hide your mouth with your fan each time you take a bite, a gesture of profound modesty. Across the room, you can hear the low murmur of the men's voices, and occasionally a burst of restrained laughter. You wonder what they are talking about. Promotions, the latest scandal, the quality of the rice wine they are being served. After the last of the beautiful, lukewarm dishes has been cleared away, the banquet transitions into its next, and perhaps most important, phase. This is not a time for idle chatter or dancing. This is the Heian Court. It is time for a competition. An attendant brings out a magnificent incense burner, a bronze censer with a perforated lid, from which a thin tendril of fragrant smoke is already rising. He places it in the center of the room, in the space between the men's and women's sides. Asterisk, the minister, your host, announces that the evening's entertainment will be an incense-matching game, or takimono aways. A murmur of pleased anticipation ripples through the assembled guests. This is one of the most refined and beloved pastimes of the court, a high-stakes game of olfactory. It is a chance to display your breeding, your sensitivity, and the sophistication of your nose. Asterisk, the rules are simple in theory, but fiendishly difficult in practice. The host has prepared several different incense blends. Each blend will be burned in turn. The guests are to sniff the fragrant smoke and, on a slip of paper, write down not only what they believe the ingredients to be, but also a short, evocative poem inspired by the scent. A judge, usually the host, or a designated connoisseur, will then evaluate the responses. Points are awarded for correctness, but also for the beauty and cleverness of the poem. It's like a wine tasting, a pop quiz, and a poetry slam all rolled into one. Asterisk, an attendant hands each guest a small writing set and a few slips of paper. You hold the brush, your hand feeling a little slick with nervous sweat. You've participated in simple incense games back home, but never in this high-level company. The pressure is immense. Asterisk, the first incense is presented. The attendant wafts the smoke from the censer gently in the direction of the guests. You close your eyes and inhale deeply, letting the complex aroma fill your senses. This one is deep, woody, and slightly spicy. The primary note is unmistakable: sandalwood, the backbone of many blends. But there are other notes too, a hint of something sharp and medicinal, clove, perhaps, and something else, a sweet, resinous scent that lingers at the back of your throat. Frankincense. Asterisk, you jot down your guesses, your brushstrokes feeling clumsy. Then comes the harder part, the poem. What does this scent evoke? It feels ancient, serious, and deeply calming. It reminds you of a dark temple hall, the air thick with centuries of prayer. You try to capture that feeling in a short, 5-line walk. The words feel clunky, inadequate. Asterisk, a little-known fact about these incense blends is their staggering complexity. The recipes, known as owaseiko, were often closely guarded family secrets, passed down through generations. They could contain dozens of ingredients, including sandalwood, loosewood, cloves, camphor, musk, and ambergris, all ground into fine powders and mixed with honey or plum pulp to form a sticky paste. The resulting balls of incense were then aged for years in ceramic jars to allow the scents to meld and mature. This wasn't just perfume. It was an art form as complex and revered as sword-making. Asterisk, the second scent is presented. This one is completely different. It's lighter, sweeter, with a distinct floral note. But it's not a simple flower. It's elusive, almost playful. Is it plum blossom? No, it's greener than that. You catch a whiff of something that reminds you of damp earth after a spring rain. The scent is meant to evoke a specific scene, a particular mood, perhaps a walk in a garden, just as the dew is setting. You write a poem about a hidden flower? Its scent carried on the cool night air. Asterisk, the men on their side of the screen are murmuring quietly. You can hear a confident chuckle from one of them, as if he has identified the blend with ease. The women on your side are silent, focused, their faces hidden behind their fans, their expressions a mystery. The competition is silent, but fierce. A good performance here can elevate your reputation for weeks. A poor showing, confusing a common clove with a rare loosewood, would be a source of quiet gossip. Asterisk, historians often wonder about the specific aesthetics of these scents. We have the recipes, but we can never truly know what they smelled like in a room full of people dressed in silks that were also perfumed, in a wooden building that had its own scent, with food and flowers nearby. Was the experience overwhelming? Or was the Heian nose simply trained to a level of discernment we can no longer imagine, able to pick out a single ingredient in a symphony of smells? Asterisk, the third and final incense is burned. The smoke that wafts toward you is extraordinary. It is the most complex and beautiful scent you have ever encountered. It is at once sweet, spicy, woody, and yet has a clean, almost aquatic note to it. It smells like a myth. You recognize the precious, almost legendary scent of hybrid loosewood, or Ciara, a resinous wood worth more than its weight in gold. But there is more. Something that smells of the sea. Could it be ambergris? The strange waxy substance from the belly of a whale that washes ashore? Asterisk, you are completely out of your depth. You cannot possibly identify all the ingredients, so you decide on a different strategy. Instead of trying to be an expert, you will focus on the poetry. You close your eyes and let the scent transport you. It doesn't smell like a temple or a garden. It smells like a distant shore, a place you've only ever read about in stories, a place where magical things happen. Asterisk, you write a quick, impulsive poem about a traveler on a boat, guided not by the stars, but by a fragrant smoke drifting from an enchanted island just over the horizon. It's a flight of fancy, a bit of a gamble. When the attendant comes to collect your slip of paper, you hand it over with a feeling of quiet dread. You have either done something brilliant or made a complete fool of yourself. There is rarely a middle ground in the Heian Court. Asterisk, the host, The minister begins to read the submitted poems aloud. He starts with the responses to the first incense, the one you identified as sandalwood and clove. He reads a few of the men's poems first. They are technically perfect, full of learned allusions to Chinese classics. Then he reads a few from the ladies' side. They are delicate, sensitive, and full of seasonal imagery. He reads your poem about the dark temple hall. He makes no comment, his voice a neutral, resonant baritone. Asterisk, he moves on to the second scent, the light, floral one. More poems are read. You hear Chio's name mentioned with a compliment. Her verse about the hidden flower was apparently quite good. You feel a small, uncharitable pang of jealousy, which you quickly suppress behind your fan. Asterisk finally. He comes to the third and most complex scent, the one with the rare He reads a few responses that correctly identify the main ingredients, earning murmurs of admiration from the guests. These are the experts, the true connoisseurs. Then, he pauses. Asterisk, and here, he says, his voice taking on a new tone of interest. We have a different approach. He reads your poem about the traveler being guided by the scent of a magical island. A deep silence falls over the room. For a moment, you are certain you have committed a terrible faux pas by ignoring the analytical part of the game in favor of pure fantasy. Asterisk, an imaginative interpretation. The minister says slowly, bold. It does not list the ingredients, but it captures the spirit. He sets your paper down. He doesn't declare you a winner, but he doesn't dismiss you either. You have been singled out, noticed for your creativity, rather than your expertise. It's a strange, ambiguous victory. Asterisk, as the party begins to wind down, you feel a pair of eyes on you. You glance up, and through a gap in the decorative screen, you see her. It's the woman you've heard whispered about. The other great literary talent of the court, a stark contrast to the sparkling Shōnagon. This is Murasaki, Shikibu. Asterisk, she is not what you expected. Where Shōnagon is all sharp angles and restless energy, Murasaki is quiet, still, and almost recessive. She sits slightly apart from the other ladies, half hidden in the shadows. Her robes are exquisite, but in somber, muted colors, deep greens and grays. Her face, in the flickering lantern light, is beautiful, but etched with a deep, abiding melancholy. She is not participating in the light chatter around her. She is simply watching, her gaze distant and thoughtful. She looks like a person who lives more in her own head than in the room around her. Asterisk, this is the woman who is, at this very moment, composing what will become the world's first novel, The Tale of Genji. A quirky detail scholars love is that she wasn't a novelist in our sense. She was a lady-in-waiting, and her writing was likely done in spare moments, on loose sheets of paper, circulated chapter by chapter among the ladies of the court, like a serialized television show for an audience of a few dozen people. It was wildly popular, an immediate sensation within the palace walls. Asterisk, you watch her as she lifts a cup of rice wine to her lips. Her movements slow and deliberate. Her reputation is one of shyness and intellectualism, unlike the assertive Shōnagon, who was proud of her knowledge of Chinese classics. Murasaki famously pretended to be less educated than she was, as it was considered unladylike to be too overtly brainy. Historians debate whether this was a genuine trait of her personality or a calculated social strategy. In a court that valued conformity, perhaps blending into the background was the only way she could find the quiet space to create her sprawling, psychologically complex masterpiece. Asterisk, she. You finally return to your own partitioned space. The familiar scent of cypress wood, a welcome comfort after the sensory overload of the banquet. Your attendants, working in near darkness, help you through the laborious process of disrobing. The 8 layers of silk are lifted off, one by one, each whisper of fabric a step back towards being just a person again. The sudden lightness is a relief, a physical release from the day's formal pressures. dressed once more in your simple sleeping cassode. You feel blessedly unadorned. Asterisk, your futon has been unrolled, the heavy silk comforter looking impossibly inviting. The wooden pillow waits. The palace around you has fallen into a deep quiet. The only sound is the chirping of crickets from the gardens, a sound so constant it becomes part of the silence. You are just about to lie down, to finally let go of the day, when you hear it. A soft thump against the paper of your CHG screen. You freeze. It wasn't a loud noise, but it was distinct, deliberate. It was the sound of something small and solid being tossed against the screen from the veranda outside. You hold your breath, your heart suddenly starting to hammer again. Is it a mistake? A late-night prank by one of the junior courtiers? Asterisk then. A low voice, a man's voice, from the other side of the paper wall. It's so quiet it's barely more than a murmur, but it's clear in the stillness of the night. He speaks a single line of poetry, a verse about the moon being hidden by the clouds, a classic metaphor for a beautiful woman hidden from view. Asterisk, and then silence. He is gone. The nightingale floors do not sing. He must be standing still on the veranda, or he has retreated as silently as he came. Asterisk, this is it. This is the moment you have read about in stories. The moment that defines so much of Heian courtly romance. A secret, nocturnal visit. A poem sent into the darkness. A test of your poetic soul, and your willingness to engage in a flirtation that is both deeply romantic and fraught with social peril. Asterisk, your mind races. Who was it? Was it one of the courtiers you saw from a distance in the garden? One of the men from the banquet, his face a blur behind the screens. The voice was unfamiliar. A suitor's first move was almost always anonymous, adding to the thrill and the mystery. His identity would only be revealed if you proved to be a worthy and willing correspondent. Asterisk, you creep towards the screen. Your bare feet silent on the tatami mat. You press your ear against the wooden frame, but there is nothing to hear but the crickets. Hesitantly, you slide the screen open just a crack. The cool night air rushes in, carrying the scent of damp earth and night-blooming jasmine. The veranda is empty, but there, on the dark, polished wood, lies a single branch of a cherry tree, its blossoms a pale, ghostly white in the faint moonlight. Tied to the stem with a delicate knotted ribbon is a small, folded piece of paper. Asterisk, this is the classic quintessential Heian move. The poem, delivered with a flower or branch that is poetically appropriate to the season and the sentiment. The cherry blossom, beautiful but fleeting, is a comment on the transient nature of beauty and opportunity. He is telling you this moment is precious and will not last. Asterisk, your hands are shaking as you pick it up. The blossoms are cool and soft against your skin. You bring the branch inside and slide the screen shut, your private space once again sealed. By the dim light of a single oil lamp, you untie the ribbon and unfold the paper. It's a sheet of thick, dark blue paper, reminiscent of the night sky. On it is written the same verse he spoke, a formal opening to a poetic conversation. Asterisk. Now, the ball is in your court. To ignore the poem would be a pointed, brutal rejection. To respond is to signal your interest, to agree to enter the game. A clumsy or uninspired reply would end the flirtation before it began. Your response must be perfect. It must be witty, elegant, and written on the appropriate paper with beautiful calligraphy, even in the middle of the night. This is why you keep a writing box by your bedside. Asterisk. This clandestine, poetic courtship is a defining feature of the era. A little-known detail is that these exchanges could go on for weeks or even months, before the lady would allow the gentleman to see her face to face. It was a romance conducted almost entirely through literature. The man fell in love with the woman's wit and calligraphy, not her appearance. Historians debate how much of this was genuine romance, and how much was a formalized social game, a way to build alliances and assess the character of potential spouses. Perhaps, like everything else in this court, it was both at once. Asterisk, you rummage through your paper collection. What is the right response? He has sent you night blue paper. You cannot send the same color back. You choose a paper of pale, silvery gray, the color of the moon he mentioned in his poem. It is a direct, intelligent reply in the language of color. Asterisk, you grind a few drops of ink. Your movements small and silent. Your mind is a whirlwind. You need a poem that acknowledges his, but turns it back on him with a clever twist. He said the moon year was hidden by the clouds. You will reply that the moon only shines because it reflects the light of the sun him. A deeply flattering, if scientifically inaccurate, sentiment. It's flirtatious, but also appropriately modest. Asterisk, you write the poem, your brush moving swiftly. Your heart is pounding with a mixture of fear and exhilaration. This is dangerous. A misstep, a discovery, could lead to scandal. But it is also the most alive you have felt all day. You are no longer just a passive observer, or a player in someone else's game. You are the protagonist of your own secret story. Asterisk, you tie your poem back onto the same cherry branch. But how to return it? You can't just leave it on the veranda. You slide the screen open again, just a crack, and peer out. In the shadows at the far end of the veranda, you see a dark shape. He is still there, waiting. He has been waiting all this time, in the cold, to see if you would answer. Asterisk with a deep breath. You gently slide the branch through the opening in the screen, and let it fall softly onto the wooden planks outside. Then you quickly, silently, close the screen, and retreat into the darkness of your room. Your back pressed against the wall, listening. Asterisk, you wait in the darkness, every sense on high alert. You don't dare move closer to the paper screen. Terrified that your silhouette might be visible against the faint interior lamplight, you hear a soft rustle, then the almost imperceptible sound of the cherry branch being lifted from the wooden planks of the veranda. This is followed by a long, profound silence. He is reading your poem. Asterisk, this moment feels longer than your entire afternoon playing Go with the Empress. In that game, the stakes were your social standing. Here, the stakes feel personal. It's your intellect, your wit, your very essence being judged in the quiet of the night. You find yourself holding your breath, listening for a sign, a soft chuckle, a whispered word, the sound of retreating footsteps. Asterisk, you hear nothing. For a heart-stopping minute, you wonder if your poem was an insult. Was it too forward? Too clever by half? Did your calligraphy look rushed? The catalog of potential failures is endless. Then, you hear the quiet but distinct sound of a fan snapping open. Thwack. It's a sharp, confident sound in the stillness. It is not a sound of displeasure. It's a sound of emphasis, of punctuation. It feels like an exclamation point. Asterisk, a moment later. The nightingale floorboards at the far end of the veranda sing their reedy song, a gentle chirp, 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 fading into the distance. He is gone, and he has taken your poem with him. Asterisk, you finally allow yourself to breathe. A long, slow exhale of relief and residual adrenaline. You have successfully completed your first clandestine poetic exchange. You have a secret admirer. The thought is both thrilling and deeply unsettling. Who is he? Will he write again tomorrow night? The uncertainty is a strange new kind of emotional weight. Asterisk, you move away from the screen, and finally, make your way to your futon. Your body is exhausted, but your mind is still spinning, replaying every event of the impossibly long day. The Empress's challenge, the silent strategy of Go, the intimidating presence of Shōnagon, and the quiet melancholy of Murasaki, the beautiful, bland banquet, the high-stakes incense game, and now, this, a poem on a cherry branch? Asterisk, you lie down, your head settling onto the cushioned wooden pillow. This is the time of day, you realize, when the real processing happens. This is when the court ladies distill their experiences, their observations, their secret feelings, into words. You now understand the impulse, the need, to write it all down. Asterisk beside your futon is a small lacquer box. Inside it is your own personal journal. It's not a formal diary, but a collection of fine, unbound paper, a place for you to practice your calligraphy and jot down thoughts. It is your pillow book. The term, made famous by Sage, likely referred to these boxes of paper kept in or near the wooden pillows used for sleeping. Ready for late-night thoughts? Asterisk, this is a widely accepted historical practice. Many court ladies kept such journals. It was a private space in a world that offered very little privacy. These were places to record memorable poems, paste in beautiful letters received from others, and write down personal reflections, lists, and observations, much like say Shōnagon did, though perhaps with less biting wit. A lesser-known detail is that these pillow books were also practical tools. They were places to draft poems before committing them to expensive, decorative paper to be sent. You wouldn't want to send your secret admirer a poem with a crossed-out word, asterisk. Your eyelids feel heavy, weighted down as if by tiny, invisible stones. The brush slips from your fingers, leaving a small black smudge on the paper, a final accidental mark at the end of your thoughts. You don't have the energy to tidy it. You carefully place the sheet of paper with the others in the lacquer box and push it aside. The day is finally, truly, over. Asterisk, you slide down under the heavy silk futon, its weight now feeling less like a pressure and more like a comforting anchor in the vast, quiet night. The wooden pillow cradles the back of your neck, its firmness a familiar sensation. The world is reduced to this small, warm space. The palace, with its intrigues and its poetry and its crushing elegance, feels miles away, a story that happened to someone else. Asterisk all the sounds that filled your day, the rustle of silk, the clicking of ghost-stones, the murmur of voices, the chirping of the nightingale floors have vanished. They have been replaced by the soft ambient symphony of the Heian night. The rhythmic chorus of the crickets is the loudest thing you can hear, a steady, hypnotic pulse that seems to vibrate in the very air. Outside, a gentle breeze has picked up, and you can hear it sighing through the pine trees in the garden, a low mournful whoosh that speaks of vast, empty spaces. Asterisk then, another sound joins the nocturnal choir. It's faint, so faint you wonder if you are imagining it. It's the sound of music, drifting from a distant part of the palace. Someone is playing the koto, the long, 13-stringed zither. The notes are plucked slowly, one at a time, creating a sparse, haunting melody that seems to hang in the cool night air before dissolving. Asterisk each note is clear and perfect, a drop of silver in an ocean of silence. The music isn't for an audience. It feels private, introspective. Perhaps it's another lady in waiting, unable to sleep, expressing her own feelings through the strings. Or maybe it's a courtier, practicing a difficult piece in the solitude of the night. A well-known fact about Heian musical life is that proficiency in an instrument like the koto or the flute was just as important as poetic skill, especially for men trying to woo a lady. A man might stand on a veranda and play a flute, the melody carrying his longing into the hidden chambers of the women. Asterisk, you lie still, listening. The melody is simple, repetitive, and deeply melancholic. It speaks of beauty and sadness, the monono, aware, the pathos of things. That is the core of the Heian aesthetic. It's the feeling of watching cherry blossoms fall, the awareness that all beautiful things must fade. The music seems to understand the weight of your day, the fleeting nature of your small victories, the sweet ache of your new secret. It is the perfect soundtrack for this moment, a lullaby for a weary and overstimulated soul. Asterisk historians often try to reconstruct the soundscapes of the past, but it's an impossible task. We can read about the music, but we can never hear it, as you are hearing it now drifting through wooden halls, mingling with the sound of wind and insects. imbued with the specific emotional context of this unique time and place. Was it always this melancholic, or did they have cheerful, upbeat tunes for parties? The literature tends to emphasize the sad songs, the music of longing and loss, perhaps because those feelings were considered more profound, more poetically interesting. The slow, deliberate pace of the koto music begins to regulate your breathing. You inhale as a note is plucked, and you exhale as it fades into the night. Plink, breathe in, fade, breathe out. The melody is a gentle, guiding hand, leading you away from the sharp edges of your thoughts and into a softer, hazier state of mind. You think of the poem you received? The cherry branch, the faceless man in the dark. The anxiety has softened into a kind of gentle curiosity. The image no longer makes your heart race. Instead, it feels like the opening scene of a dream you are about to have. You picture the cherry blossoms, pale white in the moonlight, and the image is peaceful, beautiful. Your body sinks deeper into the futon. The rustle of your own silk sleeping robe is the only sound in your small room. It's a soft, comforting friction, a final reminder of the world of textures you inhabit. You are warm, you are safe behind your paper screens, and the world is, for now, at peace. The distant koto plays its final, lingering note, a single, perfect point of sound that hangs in the air and then dissolves completely into the all-encompassing silence. And as it fades, you fade with it, drifting off into a deep and dreamless sleep. A quiet note in the long, slow song of history. The day is done. The heavy silks have been folded away. The poems have been written, and the secret glances have been exchanged. All of the day's anxieties, its small triumphs, and its lingering questions can be set aside now, left to rest in the quiet corridors of the palace. The only task that remains is to let go, to allow the gentle current of the night to carry you away from the shore of wakefulness. Feel the comforting weight of the blankets around you, a soft, secure pressure that grounds you in this present, peaceful moment. Your breathing slows, each exhale a soft release, carrying with it the last remnants of the day's concerns. Let them drift away like lanterns on a river, growing smaller and dimmer until they disappear entirely from view. The world outside your window continues its quiet turn, but here, in this space, there is only stillness. There is only the soft, rhythmic rise and fall of your own breath, a steady, dependable anchor in the deep and quiet ocean of the night. Imagine the moon, a pale, serene disk in the vast, dark sky. It asks nothing of you. It simply is. It shines its gentle, silver light on the sleeping world, on the tiled roofs of the palace and the still water of the garden pond. Let that soft, peaceful light fill your mind, smoothing over the rough edges of your thoughts, leaving only a sense of calm, a feeling of profound and easy rest. There is nothing to do now, nothing to solve, nothing to be. There is only this gentle descent into sleep, as natural and as effortless as a leaf falling from a tree. Rest now. The story is over.